Welcome aboard, everybody. It is 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. It's me and that guy. We're going to talk about some September call-ups, waiver wire pickups, and other things along the way, injuries and whatnot. There's a lot of news today, so let's get right started. Oh, I should say
All
hi to
right.
you, though, first. Hi, that guy.
I'm nobody. That's okay.
How are you doing today, dude?
Just
Just say
tired from
good.
dealing with a 2-year-old, but good.
Watching football, I know. You had a draft today, this afternoon, or this morning, and we were talking about the fact that you drafted 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds. And I say to that, I really don't know how many trades you're going to need to make because the wide receiver depth is. This is one thing I know for sure. I may not be a football person, but this is what I know for sure. The wide receiver depth is extensive. The running back depth, it drops off like a cliff and it does not recover ever in the running back department. Am I right?
Yes and no, because you got to look at how many guys really come out of waivers for running back. So it was actually 3 of my first 4, but my running backs are David Johnson, Nick Chubb, and Melvin Gordon in my starting lineup. And it's a 3 wide receiver league, so I have Brandon Cooks, Calvin Ridley, and Christian Kirk. And that's what bothers me is that wide receiver 3.
Well, you need to just go to the waiver wire because I guarantee there's some worthy ones. And I think you'll find out after week 1 where these, a lot of these rookies, okay, stand.
Well, that's the problem. It's the same thing in football as it is with baseball. Rookies, they have good weeks to stream, but you can't really rely on them for a season.
Well, you can, but you don't know which ones you can at the beginning, right?
That's very true.
So let's start with a couple players that are coming back from injury. And the first one we talk about is Sean Doolittle for Washington. So I would say if you grab Daniel Hudson for a few saves while Doolittle was out to injury, that he's probably not going to get the opportunities that he got while Doolittle was out. So he's been activated today and should see most of the save opportunities on a team that has been excellent since the All-Star break.
Yeah, and really with Hudson, you're just hoping that Doolittle ends up having a pitch 3, 4 times in a week, so that way you can at least get 1, maybe 2 save opportunities out of him. But you're also counting that they play 5 close games that week, so it's really tough to rely on him. The only way you're going to own him still is if you're in a holds league.
Daniel Hudson, yes. This is true. And Sean Doolittle is owned in every league, so that's not really for pickup purposes. That's more just for informational purposes. Byron Buxton is activated today, but that's not good for fantasy owners because he is only cleared for running and defensive, okay, abilities or whatever you want to talk about. It's none of the fantasy owners what we're seeking. Nothing.
Yeah, because you got to figure he's not going to get put in for a defensive replacement unless it's in the 9th inning because they don't want to risk him coming up to at bat and having to make another replacement in that game. So you can rule him out in the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings to come in as a pinch runner, really, since unless they're playing a National League team.
Yeah, I just don't see him getting a lot of playing time going forward, at least not for now. He's only allowed to run and defend. I don't think he's going to be out there, just like you said, for the exact reasons that you said. But there is a guy to put on your radar, which is Ian Miller, speedy outfielder. He was called up. He had 35 stolen bases at AAA this season and could see some playing time due to the fact that everybody in Cleveland is injured. Well, there's quite a few. I mean, Cleveland. Why am I?
Minnesota.
Here's me thinking I'm thinking about Franmil Reyes. Okay, why? I don't know why. Franmil Reyes is on my radar. Just kidding.
Oh, you love Franmil.
I know. So, yes, Minnesota has a lot of injuries that they're dealing with right now, like Marwin Gonzalez, Miguel Sano. Who else is injured on that team? Quite a few. I, I
Well, I
just,
know Crone just came back not too long ago.
yeah, and he's hitting, but he actually took the bench today because another guy that we're going to talk about in a second, which is Astudillo. Williams Astudillo was activated today and playing first base. And CJ Cron is sitting, but that's really not indicative of anything going forward. I think that they just wanted to make room in the lineup for Astudillo. We're going to talk about him in a moment. I should have put him right next to this Byron Buxton because he's obviously on the same team. But he was activated today. I already said he's playing first base. He does play third base, too, and catcher. He qualifies at catcher, which is the most intriguing thing about him for fantasy owners. left oblique strain he's been sidelined with 56 games. So he actually like wrapped up his rehab 14 games, but they waited until the rosters expanded to pull him up. But he was hitting 333 with 4 home runs, and he should see playing time. We're not really sure how much of it, but again, with the injuries in Minnesota, you can expect him to see some kind of playing time.
Yeah, well, the only thing that worries me is that oblique injury, just because of the fact you see what it does to guys like Judge and things like that. So, granted, he's not, even remotely the kind of power hitter that Judge is, but it really affects your swing, so it does bother me in that sense.
For sure. Obliques are very, well, you don't know a lot about them. They could linger on for a month, they could linger on for a year, these oblique strains, so... Adalberto Mondesi activated today. Are they going to allow this guy to steal bases, though? He was out for a month and a half. He's had a dislocated left shoulder, right? So, I mean, I don't think that anybody should be sliding head first to begin with. And the fact that this is a shoulder injury, it doesn't mean that he can't slide with his feet first like he's supposed to be doing in the first place. I mean, he's still tied for third in the majors with 31 stolen bases. I just wonder if he's going to get the green light or not. I mean, we all know that Kansas City is a speedy team, and they absolutely allow their batters, like their base runners, to take a chance and go. But with this injury, he's coming back. I still wouldn't expect him to be stealing a ton of bases. That's just me, though. I've heard both sides of this story, so...
Well, it's really the only thing that Kansas City has to offer is stolen bases. But I agree with you. When you're talking about shoulder injury, it's really tough to project on what he's going to do and how much he's going to play. At least it wasn't his throwing arm.
Yes.
So that's at least a good sign to it. But could you imagine if he didn't miss this, what was it, a month and a half now?
Yeah, he'd definitely...
He'd be at, what, probably 55 stolen bases right now?
I don't know, a month and a half. I'd say he could probably steal 12 bases, so 40. I would say he'd have about 45 stolen bases right now. Yeah, 45.
I mean, it's
him getting,
just insane.
I know. He's going to be a good target next year, too. Hopefully, I mean, for next year's case, right, if he doesn't do anything from here on out, then we have a lot of recency bias getting in his way at the draft next year, which would... see him go down the ADP rather than up the ADP, because what happens between now and then, it has a lot of impact on next year's draft.
I agree, because a lot of people put too much on the August and September months for somebody and when they weigh them for their draft the next season. So you got to look at it in that sense that if he does have a poor month, he's going to fall pretty far in drafts, and everyone's going to forget about the 31 stolen bases he had before he was hurt. And he was, probably 12, 13 stolen bases ahead of everybody when he went out?
Yeah, he's just a stealing base monster, dude. Plus, he hits home runs, this guy. He does a little bit of everything. Alex Verdugo starts rehab. Okay, he started rehab. I really do think that even though he's not going to play this week, I think he's got a better chance maybe for next week. This week is not a good matchups for him anyway, but regardless, I just wanted to say that he is on his way back, which puts a little bit of a... Does that affect Gavin Lux? Because Gavin Lux, everybody's expecting this guy to get called up. He's hit like crazy down in the minors. 392 batting average with 35 extra base hits in 199 plate appearance, or 199 at bats. 13 home runs, 3 stolen bases. He's been caught 3 times too, but Gavin Lux is running into the problem of playing time where he's kind of blocked here, especially. They
need to move him to like second base or something like that, because otherwise they have Seager that's blocking him at short, Turner's blocking him at third, and then you have Bellinger and Jock as a combination of first. So and also Max Muncy. So where are you going to play this guy? That's really the thing. And your outfield is pretty deep too. You're not going to teach him how to catch overnight. So
I agree with you. Like, he's played second base and shortstop his full career so far. I mean, he's been in the minor leagues in 2018 and 2019. That's all we have to go by, but he's played only second base and shortstop. He has DH, but they don't have a DH, so that only counts when they're, away.
Going against AL teams. Yeah. I mean, it's really tough to sit there and project on him. And I've also heard that they're expecting him to just be a ride-along for September, so he won't even be on the active roster.
Exactly. And, yesterday I did a show and I talked about how these teams in the minor leagues, you got to watch out, because if these teams are in the playoffs down in the minors, then it will affect whether or not their youngsters get called up immediately. And for the rest of the players that their team in the minor league doesn't make the playoffs, their season is pretty much over. It ends in like 3 days. So just because a player gets called up, and this is where I went wrong yesterday, Lenny was like, this is how it works. I was like, okay. Even though a player gets called up, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hit every day or play every day, because I said in my podcast that they don't call up minor league players just to put them on the bench. But at the end of the season, when the minor league season is over, it makes sense that they would, of course, call these players up to just give them the ride-along that you mentioned. And if so there's two things. If the team is in the playoffs, expect them to be, they're going to be left down in the minors until their team either drops out of the playoffs or wins. And their national championship is September 17th, and their playoffs start on September 4th. So there's that. Any hitters that are, in the playoffs down in the minors, don't expect him to get called up till after September 17th. And for those players like maybe Gavin Lux, they could call him up just for a ride along because he doesn't have anything else to do with his time anyway.
Which, honestly, I see both sides of that, because like we were saying, Lux is blocked, but he's played so well, you have to give him an opportunity.
Just to see what it's like at the major leagues. I mean, even if he's just a bench player, it will give him a chance to get to know the people and
I don't like the thought of him just being there as a ride along to, be able to go through practices and batting practice and so on with that. I want to see him actually get, 4 or 5, maybe 6 games in September as a chance to kind of prove he does belong there.
I agree with you, but it probably won't be in high leverage situations. It will probably be, the Dodgers are one of those teams where, I mean, I haven't checked the standings in a while. I'm going there right now to make sure that I'm right. But it seemed like at one point that they had such a big lead in the National League West that nobody was going to catch them, whether or not they stopped playing their player. Like, if they just benched everybody in the starting lineup right now, they would still make the playoffs. They would still win their division. Arizona is 17 games back. There's just no way that they could even come in second in that division.
No, the Dodgers would have to lose every game in September, and let's be honest, a lot of their minor league talent is good enough to be starters somewhere else in the league right now, so that's not going to happen.
Right, so that being said, with the Dodgers so far ahead that they don't risk coming in second, there is a chance, and a good chance, that they start resting hitters and definitely pitchers. These pitchers are already being rested. Ryu's got issues because he's pitching too many innings. I mean, he's pitched 200 in his career, but it hasn't been for a long time. So he needs a rest. The Dodgers pitching, we're going to talk about another starting pitcher that you could consider this week. But either way, I think it opens up the door for these youngsters to allow, especially if they call him up, which they didn't call him up today, but if they do call Gavin Lux up, that they'll give him some opportunity to play in games. Now, whether or not that's going to be useful for fantasy, I say no. Don't even bother picking him up in fantasy. Gavin Lux is not going to be useful to your fantasy team this year.
No, the only way he's worth it is if you're in a keeper league, and that's just as a stash.
Ryan Zimmerman comes back today, activated, playing first base. Matt Adams is sitting now, but they do say that they're expecting him to only start against lefties. So Matt Adams is still going to keep the large side of that platoon at first base in Washington. And I would say even if Ryan Zimmerman is sitting there injured on your, I would take him. Obviously, you have to take him off the DL, but I'm not playing him.
No, it's really tough to want to play him. This isn't, 5 years ago Zimmerman we're talking about right now, and he's definitely not the player that he was. But I do want to say, what happened to, I remember Lenny saying at the beginning of the season that the Nationals wanted to give Matt Adams, 40 stolen base attempts?
What?
I remember at the beginning of the season, they said they were going to give him just a ridiculous amount of stolen base attempts, and I don't really remember him running at all.
Is that true, Leonard? I don't never heard of him running in my entire...
I could have sworn that's exactly my thought of it, too, and But I could have sworn that at the beginning of the year, Lenny was talking about that.
Maybe, but I've never heard him. Honestly, I don't know who would think that Matt Adams was going to get, but I don't know. He's not worthy of owning in fantasy leagues either because he's been so. It used to be that when he got an opportunity that he would hit like crazy, but he didn't get a lot of opportunity because he didn't really fit in defensively, right?
Hmm.
Now, I mean, even though he's getting opportunity, I think he's just past his prime. I don't think that he's worth owning, and especially now since Ryan Zimmerman's coming back, he's not going to have as many at bats. So Sean Manaea, though, is a big deal. Coming back from injury, this is going to be his first. He hasn't pitched. I will say that he hasn't pitched in nearly a year, literally like this week, a year. And he had surgery and all of these things, but he finished a rehab on Friday. He struck out 12 in 7 scoreless innings at AAA Las Vegas. He's, like I said, he's been out for an entire year, but in his last 4 starts, he has 36 strikeouts and 5 walks, 2 home runs allowed in 23 and 2/3 innings. So he's really using his pitches well. His command is good, and he should be picked up if he's available in any league.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I've forgotten all about Manaea just because how long that he's been out, and I don't remember him having such a, wide strikeout to walk ratio
Yeah, he
as
doesn't
what he did.
usually. Yes, he doesn't usually strike out as many batters as he.
So something really went on with him, and this is the kind of guy that could be a waiver wire pickup that wins you your league in September.
Absolutely, you should pick him up if he's available. I mean, like I said, he hasn't pitched in a year in the major leagues, so that alone could mean that he is sitting on. He's just sitting there waiting to be picked up. I didn't check yet to see if he was available in leagues, but he is definitely on the list to be watching to see if he is, because if he is, I'm grabbing him. Austin Riley. Now, we know how bad he was, okay, right before he went to the IL. It was almost, you could literally believe that the whole stint on the injury thing was just a phantom DL, I guess it's called phantom IL now, but whatever, okay, we're not politically correct around here. Just that Austin Riley was so bad. He started rehab on August 23rd, so it's been a while. I mean, he's ready to come back. He's ready to be activated in Atlanta. He moved to AAA on the 26th. He's played in every game since. Today or tomorrow should get activated. He went hitless only twice in 8 rehab games. But we know that that's the minor leagues. This is the major leagues. Austin Riley came up on fire. Whether or not he dropped off because he was injured or because the league figured him out real quick, that's yet to be heard of. We don't know. But since August 26th at AAA, he's batting .318.
Yeah, and Riley always tore up in the minors, so I'm not shocked by that. But I do question whether it was not a phantom injury just for the fact that it didn't happen on the field. It was something that happened, in the weight room. So it kind of makes it as a question for it because nobody actually got to see it. It could have just been the trainers like, hey, these guys figured you out. We're going to give you a little bit of a break so you can try to figure out how to do something a little differently and get back on top of them, watching video, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they'll find a spot in their lineup for him? Because
I do.
Atlanta is really, I mean, it's a close race over here.
I do feel that Riley is going to end up playing just because he's too much of a talent not to. Markakis is still out, I believe, so they have that spot open on the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
But you have Donaldson, who's been playing pretty well over at third, and honestly, Riley didn't play a lot of third when he came up because of Donaldson. He was mainly playing out in left field.
It says that they really haven't activated him, so we don't know what's going to happen, but we definitely know that he's been raking down in the minors, and we'll see what happens. The roster expansions, which started today, not all the teams have really made the moves yet, because as I scroll through the news, I see most of the teams that added and they designated for assignment or they added players to their active roster. It started today, but not all the teams have done anything yet. Not all the teams have really made any moves to show, like, and even if a player doesn't get pulled up today, they still could get pulled up in the near future, right?
Exactly. It's like you were saying with the minor league playoffs about to happen. Oh, Justin Verlander just completed another no-hitter.
Oh, Justin.
But you got to love how he's like wine. He just got better with age, huh?
He's so excellent, dude. He's everything about him is just wonderful.
I'm so
Verlander.
scared to draft him and touch him, but
I know. Because one
it's
of
just
these
one of
days,
those things.
dude, one of these years, it's going to stop because he has a ton of innings on his arm. He's got an age problem, okay? I
Yeah.
mean, no offense because I'm about to turn 44, but, I'm not. He's definitely doesn't have time on his side as far as that's concerned, but he does get better with age, and there's no reason for us to believe that he's going to slow down anytime soon. The Astros are excellent, and he literally is the most consistent pitcher in baseball, even above Scherzer, above Sale, above all of them. He is the most consistent. However, he comes with a little bit of risk. I guess it all depends on where you put the majority of the risk. Do you put risk more in age, or do you put risk more in injury history or number of
He
innings?
hasn't been an injury-prone kind of guy, though.
Never.
So
But like Sale,
it's
the
hard
only
to. Yes, the
the only
Sale is a good
pitchers
example for that.
that could go ahead of him in next year's draft would be Sale or Scherzer, right? Those are the only two. Or Garrett Cole. I would have to say Garrett Cole deserves that right up there, too. So you got those three pitchers that could be drafted before Verlander in next year's draft, which means that
Which,
Verlander...
I mean, realistically, you're talking about fifth-round pick for a guy who is one of the top pitchers in the league.
Does he go to the fifth round? I doubt he makes it to the fifth round, but I know that the first couple pitchers will likely be drafted in the first round. Garrett Cole is going in the first round, probably at the end of the first round, and Max Scherzer. Sale's going to drop down several rounds, but right after that comes Verlander, and I don't think he's going to make it to the fifth, but, I mean, a third-round pick could be reasonable.
Yeah, well, and I was just throwing that out as a top number off the top of my head, but you're right, probably more like 34, or late 3, early 4 for Verlander.
Shit, I'm going it every time, dude. There's no doubt about it. If I can wait that long to get a pitcher, he's as reliable as any pitcher in baseball. So, I mean, literally more reliable because he doesn't get injured. He's consistent every year. I mean, the guy absolutely deserves all the credo, but we don't have time for all that because we got to pick up players today. Josh James is coming back. He's actually activated. He should be okay as an effector going forward. Houston is one of those teams. Obviously, they have the best rotation in baseball by far. Josh James, he could eventually be in the rotation for Houston. Not this year. He will be an effector. He was decent before. I owned him to get a win here or a hold there or whatever. He'll pitch multiple innings and strike out batters. Keep an eye out for him, depending on your league rules.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a holds league, he has to be owned. But I mean, I definitely see this as somebody who's going to end up being in their starting rotation next year because of the fact that I think they are losing one or two of their starters this offseason. I could be wrong on that. I don't know what their contracts look like right now, but they seem to be somebody kind of like the Dodgers lately that every time you think that they're finally losing something, they pull somebody else out of the minors, and you just go, what the hell? Where is this coming from?
Yeah, I mean, Forrest Whitley isn't even a blip on the radar. That's how deep their minor league system is.
With an ERA over 12, it's understandable.
Ketel Marte. I know that people have been like, what the hell? He's missed the last 2 games with a hamstring problem. Today he's in the lineup. That's huge. Last night he was in the lineup. That's even more huge because he hit his 36th home run, going 2 for 3. So Ketel Marte, good news on that front.
I remember last season how we were all shocked that he got, a 5 or a 6 year extension because none of us really had him on our radar at all. And then it made us all jump on his bandwagon, and he just completely shit the bed. And now all of a sudden we're seeing the Ketel Marte that, oh God, what is it? Diamondbacks, right?
Yep.
Okay, that the Diamondbacks had paid for.
Yeah, I mean, I actually heard, I didn't have my radar on him, but I did hear on Craig's show last year on Sirius, they interviewed the manager in Arizona. I can't think of his name. It's not. No, I don't know. I'm going to say a bunch of names, but it's not even that. Anyway, they were talking about how hard he hits the ball. That when he hits the ball, it's like super. Look at his hard contact rate. It's unbelievable. And I mean, batting leadoff, he just each year he showed improvement, and he always hit the ball really hard. So that, I mean, I actually was convinced that he was going to be okay because you could tell just by the extension how much the management likes him.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a very clear sign of it because, like I said, I think most of us hadn't even heard of him until he got that extension, and we're all like, "Why did they pay him so much money? Who is this guy?"
Yeah, he's come along quite nicely. Miguel Rojas in Miami returns today, so that could take playing time away from John Birdie, who's been excellent. And the thing about Birdie is that he plays a bunch of different positions, and he's batting .282 right now with 4 homers and 7 stolen bases and 24 runs since July 31st. So Miguel Rojas is coming back, and he's coming back to be in the lineup. So there's a couple. Yeah.
You know, the main thing that tells you how good both of these guys are is the fact that Starlin, who's been their best hitter the last, 2-3 seasons, ended up being moved from second to third base just to help these guys play.
And that's the third time that Starlin Castro has been moved since I've known the guy. He went from shortstop to second, and then second now to third.
Yeah, and Starlin is one of those guys that we keep underrating. Granted, for the most part, he mainly was giving us batting average up until this season. He has been much better, but I really feel he's been pretty underrated throughout his career.
I do too. I just wonder about I guess because he will move positions, he's not gonna lose playing time. But yes, he's like the only Miami Marlin hitter that's been consistent. Yeah. So Rojas, he's activated. I don't really need to tell you what he did down in High A Jupiter and AAA New Orleans, but he's 30 years old, so don't act like this guy is a rookie, because he's not a rookie. If he is a rookie, it's only because he spent like 10 years down in the minor leagues. He's 30 years old. Which,
if anything, that more scares me.
Yes.
I'm kind of, hoping people draft him next year because I won't be. This is one of those things that you look at, like, what took you so long? And most likely it's just that you're having a good season. People don't know what you look like when you're up at the plate. I think at best the guy's really just a good glove. So
he's really just, compared to the other hitters in the lineup, he looks good. But compare him to St. Louis Cardinal lineup, and then you'll see that he's not that good. He hit .267 with a .309 on base percentage in 22 games since the All-Star break. So I don't know if that had anything to do with his injury, but he's not that great to begin with. So I just wanted to throw it out there that this guy is not a rookie and he's not a youngster, and Miami looks at him as a definitely as in a position in their lineup for sure, but I don't think that going forward he's like a big deal.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I really feel if the Marlins are smart, they try to move him in the offseason whilst everybody is kind of high on him.
Yeah.
Granted, you're not going to get a whole lot for him, but I would assume even, D-list prospects are better than what Rojas is going to be for you in the future.
Brendan McKay struck out 8 and allowed 1 hit, walked 1 over 3 scoreless innings last night at AAA. He should be returning to the Tampa Bay Rays rotation this week, so keep an eye out for Brendan McKay. But let's talk about some players that are sitting out now. And you could pretty much just throw a dart into the Milwaukee Brewer offense, and you could see that just the chances of hitting an injured player are pretty good. So, like, Keaston Hura is out on the 10-day IL. Mustaka sits out today for the 5th straight game. He did take batting practice today, so that's a positive, but on Friday he couldn't even grip a bat. Lorenzo Cain is out. He's been dealing with a knee injury since last August, not even this past August, but it flared back up, so he's been missing time. Ryan Braun out again last night and today with back issues. Ryan Braun's back issues. So you got a lot of opening in the Brewers lineup right now. Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is, though, they don't have a lot of guys in the minors to be calling up with the expansion, so it's really tough to rely on them. I think they've really just got themselves out of any sort of race they could have been in for the month of September.
Yeah, it sucks for them, dude. They just fell apart. Anthony Rizzo, he's sitting out today, okay, which is weird to me because last night he played for the first time in 6 games, and then they say that today is a maintenance day. But I don't get, like, a maintenance day after you've just missed the last 5 games.
Yeah, to me that sounds more like his injury flared back up. And Rizzo is somebody that, oh God, what is he, 30 now? I want to say. So his injury, it's starting to scare me a little because we're not talking about a 26-year-old guy who, he can bounce back from it. Now, all of a sudden, once you start hitting your 30s, it's tough to get back from those sorts of injuries that you can deal with, whether it's something small or big.
The Cubbies trail the St. Louis Cardinals for the National League Central by only 2.5 games. And so I think that a lot of the reason why they haven't put Anthony Rizzo on the injury list is because they need him, and they're hoping that he is healthy because the Cardinals are on fire right now, okay? They're 8-2 in their last 10. I just think that the Cardinals are some team that you have to really watch out for right now.
Yes, definitely.
Going against them. Yeah.
I mean, the Cubs are somebody that I would 100% bet against right now. And with Rizzo, the best thing they could have done before letting him play last night would have been to put him on the the IL, just so that way, you can actually let him finish it off the rest of the way because he had 4 games left that he had to miss.
Yeah, that's true. And they could have they could have dated it back if they didn't put him in last night.
Exactly. So that was just more of a mistake, whether it's on Madden or the front office. Somebody made a mistake there. If he was feeling good enough to play, given the fact that he's 30 now, you need to just give him a little bit of extra rest.
Probably. I agree with you. I'm just going to go over a couple players that were lost to injury, like Gio Urshela, CC Sabathia back to the IL, Cam Bedrosian, Carlin McHugh, and Tyler Naquin out for the season. There's 2 start pitchers that I just wanted to touch on a few of them. Mike Fiers pitches at home against LA and Detroit. So the matchup is there for Mike Fiers. And I doubt that he's available in anybody's leagues, but I bring him up because I think that he's a must-start this week.
It's kind of tough. I mean, I definitely see your point of that going against Detroit, but LA, they're so hot and cold. It makes me worried about wanting to start against them just because of the fact that you don't know what team you're going to get when you put them out there, especially when you have somebody like Trout in their lineup.
I agree with you on the Trout thing, but I do like his matchups, even because they're at home, and I like home.
Yeah, I didn't notice you say that. So yeah, him at home, I do like it a lot more. It's like I said, Trout he scares me because when he's on, it seems like the whole team is on.
That's true, and he's always on. So there you go. Okay, Aaron Savale, I have him in our notes later on, but I think I'm going to talk about him now because he does have 2 starts this week. He's thrown at least 5 2/3 innings in each of his last 6 starts, right? That's huge to me. I mean, 6 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings, and just he's very consistent for innings, okay? He has yet to allow more than 2 earned runs in any of his starts. He faces Russ Detweiler tomorrow at home. That's a must start, I think. He's got a 1.96 ERA with 30 strikeouts and only 6 walks through 36 2/3 innings, but he does face Jake Odorizzi later on this week at Minnesota, which I'm not a huge fan of, but if you have to put him in there and you're stuck with him for the week, then why not just take a chance because Minnesota's beaten up.
Honestly, it doesn't scare me that much with Odorizzi because he's not pitching like he did in the first half. I mean, his ERA is up almost a full run compared to before the All-Star break, and maybe even less than that, just because I remember not that long ago he was pitching under a 3 ERA.
Yeah, he was pitching much better, and so their hitting was much better too. So even regardless of how, if he was even pitching mediocre, which he is, but the lineup gives him no run support right now, not like they did before. I mean, actually, the Minnesota Twins just broke their record for the most home runs in a season. But compare that to every other team who's breaking records for the most home runs in the season. I mean, is it that much that we're saying that? Because since the All-Star break, they have been absolutely dismal in the run scored department.
Yeah, and I mean, that home runs, they're definitely on a much slower pace than they were to open up the season. And granted, it's a long, strenuous run of a season because you get tired, you get hurt, and you're trying to play through a lot of it because you got a 162 game slate.
Right.
But it's one of those things that I know they definitely slowed down because I saw the Yankees are only 9, 10, 11 home runs behind them on the season.
Yeah, I know. Stupid ass Yankees. Judge is like a one man wrecking ball right now. So Aaron Savale though is the only major league pitcher who has 100 batted balls without giving up one barrel. 0 barrels against this guy.
And that's insane.
I love the matchup, dude, at home against
The White Sox.
Yes.
I know because here's the simple thing. Whatever he does against the White Sox, even if he gets beaten up by the Twins, they basically offset each other because he's going to dominate the White Sox, especially with Ross out there pitching. That dude has been nothing but just awful the whole season.
Yeah. Ross Detweiler. Who the hell is he? Remember? He's been around for years.
Well, wasn't it just like 2 weeks ago we were talking about how he's pitched so well, but his FIP was at like a 10 and his ERA is at like a 2?
Yeah. Uh-huh. What about the fact that this Savali, I love this Savali, dude, especially, he's stuck in the rotation for sure. And
oh, yeah.
He doesn't walk batters. That's a big deal. He hardly ever walks batters.
Exactly, and he barely gives up runs, so it's hard to want to end up not starting him. I don't care how dangerous the lineup is. Savali is one of those guys that I feel like I'm comfortable rolling out there almost against any team.
He is owned in 72 or 75% of leagues, so don't expect to find him. But if you do, it's like a Christmas gift, okay? Let's talk about Sandy Alcantara. I am not a fan of him as a starter. I don't trust that he can pitch 5 innings and not allow a ton of walks. I just don't trust that his stuff is like a starting pitcher type stuff. I believe that he's going to end up in the bullpen because I think that he's excellent for an inning or two. But he's 4-12 on the season. He's been up the entire season. Still, the last 30 days he has a 3.03 ERA, and he could very much be considered as a 2-star pitcher this week. He goes against Pittsburgh, and then he goes to Kansas City. In August, his ERA in August was 3.
Well, and against Pittsburgh and Kansas City, I feel like I can trust him, but I do agree with you. This guy seems to be more of like the Josh Hader type of a reliever where you're going to get 2 to 3 innings out of him and not let him pitch a whole game. I'm actually still kind of upset that Hader is, granted, he's been phenomenal as a closer, but why the hell has he not been given a chance to be a starter when that's all he did in the minors and he tore it up as a starter?
Really? Hader, the Haterade.
I don't get it, especially with a team that has so many holes in their starting rotation. It made no sense to me. What do you need to shore up the back end of your bullpen when you can't count on having a lead too much for Hader to come out at the end of the game?
Plus, he's the closer. He's been the closer in Milwaukee the entire season pretty much, and so obviously they can't.
Well, he's their best pitcher, without a doubt.
Absolutely, and he's been lights out in their bullpen, so I didn't know that he was a starter coming up, but it seems to be the case for several, pitchers who start out in the minors. They're starting pitchers, but they just do so good in the bullpen. Papelbon was one of them that got put into the bullpen. I only think of him because that's, I don't know, the first one that came to my mind, but there's more than just that.
Well, it almost happened to Chris Sale as well when he was with the White Sox. They brought him up, and I want to say his first year and a half, he was pitching out of the bullpen, and they were thinking about making him the closer.
Crazy. What about, I think Aroldis Chapman even was expecting to be a starting pitcher in the majors, but did not pan out that way. Alcantara against Pittsburgh and at Kansas City, I would put him in there probably if I needed some wins, strikeouts, but he does walk batters, so depends on the situation you're in. Adrian Hauser is going against Houston, which is horrible, and the Cubbies. But in his defense, he's got a 2.43 ERA and a 1.08 WHIP with 33 strikeouts and 9 walks in 33 innings. over his last 6 starts, and that was since he rejoined the Milwaukee rotation on July 30th. His last outing, he actually left early due to hip discomfort. But going forward, would you pitch him against Houston, and both games at home against Houston and against Chicago Cubbies?
The Cubs, it wouldn't bother me as much. I think with Houston, it depends on who's opposite of him. Because if you're talking about him going against, say, I'm assuming it can't be Verlander since he's just pitched today, but if he's going against like Garrett Cole or something, I don't think I could start him.
Okay, Houston against... It doesn't even show this on here. I have to start it on the right day. One sec. Start it tomorrow. I'm looking at RotoWire, projected starters. I am looking at Adrian Hauser facing, guess who? The worst that you could possibly imagine. The worst
Garrett
scenario. The worst scenario you could possibly imagine against Garrett Cole. And then it doesn't even show him on here as a 2-start pitcher, though. Because it's got... Oh, no. Hold on a sec. I got to look at Milwaukee. I was looking at Houston. So we have Hauser against Garrett Cole, and then we have Hauser at the end of the week against Chicago Cubbies, Kyle Hendricks. I'm not.
Hendricks has pitched well, but yeah, I think I'd have to have him on the bench just for the fact that he's going against Cole. That's just too rough of a matchup. Unless the only way you could even think of doing it is if he was getting, say, like a Yu Darvish, but that's because Darvish doesn't get the run support, which that makes me more enticed to want to pitch him. But the fact he's going against Garrett Cole, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, you can't, because no matter what he faces in Cubbies, it's not going to make up for the fact that he has to go against Garrett Cole. I mean, that's just no bueno. Plus, the Milwaukee lineup is just, we already talked about the fact that they're full of injuries, so you can't be getting a lot of run support for this guy. Anthony DeSclafani, though, he's got a 3.43 ERA and a 1.15 WHIP over his last 15 games started. He's also striking out 9.3 hitters per 9 innings, and he's only walking 2.6 batters per 9. He's got the Phillies at home and the Diamondbacks at home. Are you pitching DeSclafani?
No, because of the fact of how hot Philly has been. I wouldn't be able to. It's just too iffy. If I'm in a daily moves league, he would only be starting against Arizona. I wouldn't be putting him in against Philly.
Is he pitching at home, though? He's pitching at Cincinnati at home against the Phillies.
I'm still too worried about it just because of the fact that, I mean, unless you're going to tell me that Rhys Hoskins is their 1 through 9 hitters, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's true. So you got Sclafani or whatever. I don't know how to say his name good, but he goes against the Phillies' Drew Smyly tomorrow. And then he goes against Mike Leake at home on Sunday. That one I may consider. But this one against, I don't know if I'd consider either of them, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of this guy. Plus, pitching at home is it's not a plus, dude, in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's definitely not. So and that's the thing. I don't care if he's been pitching better at home or on the road. I'd really just be too scared of the Phillies because their offense has been playing very well if you take Rhys Hoskins out of it.
Did you see Vince Velasquez in the outfield, dude, making plays? He was playing in the outfield, I swear.
Well, that's not the first time he's done it. Didn't he do it against like the White Sox where he actually threw out the game-tying run or something like that, or game-winning run?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. At home plate, right? He threw out.
Yeah, I think it was Abreu he threw out.
Yeah, sometime. I don't know when that happened. I just saw it on a replay.
Oh, that was last month, some time ago. I mean, It was a while ago.
So, let's talk about Joe Ross. I can't stand this guy. I don't know why anybody would believe in him, even though George is in the chat room right now, and I know that George actually likes him. I understand this liking him, but he is not good at walks. He allows way too many free passes to base runners, and the whole goal of a pitcher is to keep runners off the base paths. I do not trust him. He has 2 starts this week going against Syndergaard at home. Okay, Washington is hosting the Mets. So Syndergaard, and then he's again at home later in the week against Atlanta, dude, which is Julio Teheran, but I still don't trust him against either one of these lineups at all.
Yeah, I couldn't trust him at all just because of the fact he walks too many guys. If he could get his walks down to, say, like, if he only had 6 or 7 walks in that period, I could consider starting him. But then again, you're talking about the two hottest teams in the AL or NL East right now. It's really tough to consider that.
Yes, because don't fall for this. His batting average on balls in play is 240, which means that hitters are not scoring when they probably should be, and that will probably even itself out. And 13 walks compared to 16 strikeouts, it's just absolutely all the signs are there for a big ass blow up. So I'm not putting him in, even if I'm
Yeah,
tempted, which I'm not.
if you start him, don't be shocked if he gives up like 6, 7 runs in a start.
Or walks like 8 batters, and that will
Well,
crush
and
you in
that's
point
usually
leagues.
oh yeah, and that's usually what'll end up hurting you. Or even in your roto league, if he ends up giving up that much when you're talking about, say, you only have like a 6 earned run lead, he could blow that on you very easily. You're
Yeah,
better off
yeah.
leaving him on your bench and letting that guy pick up a run or two on you rather than the fact of starting him and being in second and maybe falling down to second or third in your league.
Totally agree. Adam Wainwright is getting 2 starts, and I could tell you this: the Cardinals are on fire right now. And I mean, I said in my podcast yesterday, I mentioned about the Cardinals and their last couple seasons. I mean, going back to 2016 or 2017, they didn't make the playoff for the first time in like 8 years or something, or since 2010. And then it's been 3 years now that they've missed the playoffs, and all of it is due to their very last, down the stretch. They've lost like year after year. They lose like 6 out of 8 of their final games, or 5 out of 6 of their last games, and it literally goes down to the last game for these guys. And they are really under this kind of a, I don't know, curse that they need to break free from. But going back to what's coming up this week, Adam Wainwright is going to pitch at home against San Francisco and on the road at Pittsburgh. The Cardinals, just because of how good they're hitting, I might take a flyer on Adam Wainwright and stream him this week.
Yeah, especially he's got two pretty good matchups with San Fran and Pittsburgh. San Fran's been the better playing team out of the two of them, I feel, lately, but I wouldn't be able to say no to that matchup.
Vince Velasquez, I'm saying no to, even though I really want to like this guy. I think that he could be an excellent pitcher. Maybe he has too many pitches, but that is also one of his qualities that I see in him, that he's got like 5 or 6 different pitches. I just don't think he knows when to use them. He's pitching at home both games this week against the Reds and the Mets. Do you pitch Vince Velasquez?
No, but actually that too many pitches can go both ways with it. Is it he doesn't know when to use them or his catcher doesn't know when to use them? Because
Right.
honestly, we're actually seeing the fallout of that with Bauer right now. The fact that he's having issues trying to put together so many of his pitches in one start, and he's having trouble with it.
Yeah, because the catcher has no clue, but he loved Roberto Perez when he pitched in Cleveland, but he still wasn't doing that great, so I don't know. I'm just going to blow off this season with Bauer, and I think that he'll fall so far down the ADP next year that he'll be worth taking again, but we'll see. I'm not going to draft him like I did last year, that's for real.
You know what? I agree with you. With the way that he's pitching this year, it actually makes me excited just because of the fact he's going to fall so far that I probably will take a lot of shots on him next season. I mean, he's going to be in a spot where I draft him that if he doesn't pan out, I'm going to be able to drop him.
Yeah, we hope. I mean, the next month of the season, I mean, if he keeps going like he is, he's going to be excellent value for the money, but we'll see what happens. The worst thing that could happen to people that like Bauer is that he finishes the season excellent, and then we're screwed, because then you have to really question when is appropriate time to draft him, how much you're willing to risk on him.
Exactly, and that's one of those things that's why I'm kind of hoping he just kind of keeps stinking it up the rest of the season, because he's going to fall outside of the first 10 rounds if he does. And
Absolutely.
at that point, I'm very willing to draft him. It's when he's inside of those top 10 rounds right now that I don't think I could take a stab at him, just because I feel I could get better options out there.
Speaking of San Francisco, Patrick Sandoval, starting pitcher in San Francisco, he goes to Oakland, which is good for a pitcher, and then he faces the White Sox at home in San Francisco, which is also good for a pitcher. He's allowed 10 runs on the road And other than that, he's been pretty good. So, like his last outing, he gave up 1 hit and walked 3, but he struck out 9 in 5 scoreless. So, that is excellent. If we could get that every time, we're good. 3 walks don't really matter when you're striking out 9, but they do matter when you're only striking out 3.
Yeah, it's hold on because I closed out the notes, so I didn't see who you were
last
talking.
outing, I mean, he had 20 swinging strikes in 84 pitches in 5 innings. He was removed before he faced the lineup the third time, which we aren't surprised about. But I can expect that going forward, that he'll always be pulled out before he faces the lineup again in the third time around. I still think he's a good matchup this week.
This is Leak that you're talking about, or?
Oh, Patrick Sandoval. I skipped Mike
Okay.
Leake.
No, that's why I was trying to make sure. I saw where your cursor was on the notes. That's why I wasn't 100%. Honestly, I haven't been paying too much attention to Sandoval, but definitely, at Oakland, it's a pitcher's park, so I'm not too scared about that. And against the White Sox, I love the matchup.
Excuse me. At home, too, in San Francisco. You got to love that. He's 22 years
against
old.
the White Sox. Yeah, that's definitely, it makes it even better because now you're talking about a guy who has 2 starts in a pitcher's park. That's a really good way to inflate your numbers.
Absolutely. He's a good one to pick up tonight in Fab. So the week ahead has the Twins playing 7 games. They have 1 at Detroit, 3 at Boston, and 3 at home versus Cleveland. 6 of those games are versus right-handed pitching. I would say that Jake Cave is a good pickup today. He's 6% owned, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get playing time, just like we already talked about the fact that Buxton, Sano, Kepler is back, but he's still got a knee issue, and Marwin Gonzalez, all dealing with injuries between August 23rd and August 31st. Jake Cave has 5 home runs, 7 RBIs. He's batting .292. And he scored 8 runs. So going forward, especially this week at least, are you in on Jake Cave, who's 6% owned?
Yes, because I don't have a choice because I have so much ownership in Kepler that I need somebody to help replace him. And you always have holes in your outfield. I don't care how good of an outfield you have. It's better for you to have him on your bench than it is to let one of your opponents get him.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Kepler did come back last night and went crazy, so hopefully that is a showing of what's to come. But yes, I'd probably grab him for $1 or $2 just to put him on my bench if I could. Some of my leagues, if you pick up a player, you have to play him. So in that case, I'd be a little hesitant. I don't really know, but I don't really know why I'm hesitant. Like I said, 5 home runs since between August 23rd and 31st is 7 games, 8 games.
Well, the only reason I could see it is the 3 games at Boston is you're not 100% sure what Boston you're going to get. Are you going to get last season's Boston that just went on a tear, or are you going to get this season's Boston that most of us feel comfortable starting hitters against now?
Right. That's true. It's really about their pitching, too. Their pitching is, I mean, you can't rely
injured.
on it. Yeah. Okay, the Astros are playing 6 games. They're playing 2 at Milwaukee and 4 at home against Seattle. What better matchup could you imagine than that? They're facing 4 lefties, okay, at this point. And Josh Reddick should not be owned and active in any format. So if he's on your roster, even on the bench, you can throw him away to pick up someone else like Kyle Tucker, who still... We don't know this for sure, but the last update that I got has him joining the Astros tomorrow for their series in Milwaukee. Now, all I know is that Kyle Tucker should not be Reddick should not be started in any format. That's what I do know. He sucks anyways, so I doubt he is. But Kyle Tucker, would you pick him up tonight? This guy's got
honestly,
35 homers and 30 stolen bases, over 100 RBIs.
But I've talked about it before. I don't like the way that he swings. The only person I've really ever seen with that successful swing with the way he is, popping his hip out so early, is Bellinger. So he scares me in that sense. But he's another one of those guys that I think I'd rather him be on my bench than let one of my other owners or let one of the opponent owners get their hands on him.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not available in any kind of dynasty or keeper league, but for sure redraft leagues, he's probably there. And he's not even on the most added list yet, but he will be after tonight, I think. So there you go.
He's because people are still... he's like a 50-50 prospect that you get people like me that cannot stand him and are very worried about him. And then people like you that love him, they don't care what he does with his swing. They see how successful he's been in the minors and assume he has to pan out the way he's played.
Lenny's saying hi in the chat room. Hi, Leonard. He's probably at the pool, and hi everybody listening because he likes to.
I'll bet you his ears were ringing about Kyle Tucker talk.
No, he just likes to let everybody at the pool listen to my shows, which I'll take as a compliment. But okay. So anyway, Framber Valdez, Houston Astros starting pitcher. He has been filling in the rotation for Aaron Sanchez, who thankfully hit the injury list with the pectoral strain. At AAA, he had 69 strikeouts and 17 walks in 44 and a third innings. But he's got a serious problem in the major leagues with walks. He's another guy that just gives up way too many free passes. And literally, in 93 innings at the major league level, he's walked 55 batters. So he does face the Mariners, and that's why I bring him up. He is going to face the Mariners this Friday. I would say I would stream that. I would definitely stream that start. That specific start and no other start. Only because the Houston Astros they're so good at run support that I don't know. I just don't know a lot about him. He's got, how many innings is he going to pitch? That just depends on how well he pitches, because the Houston Astros have pulled him after 2/3 of an inning, after 2 outs, and they've also let him stay in for 7 innings before in June. So on August 25th, he was in for 6 innings, and I think it really just depends on how many walks and how many earned runs he's got at the time.
Well, I've got one for you that we were talking about a little bit earlier. The Brewers, with all their issues with their pitching, guess what they just did?
Tell me.
They DFA'd Jeffress.
Okay, and then what?
I didn't see any other move for it, but I just saw that pop up on the bottom line on ESPNU. So, that actually kind of, I don't really see what they are planning with that. Granted, he hasn't pitched that well at all this year, and you're talking about a guy who's already in his 30s, so I understand you've already seen what you expect out of him. But it's kind of one of those things that why not just move him to the bullpen and give another guy a chance and let him get a shot pitching out of the pen now?
We'll have to be keeping an eye on this. The Pirates, the Pirates, they're so iffy. I mean, Kevin Newman's been great. Kevin Newman has been great for the Pirates. Playing shortstop, he's playing all the time. However, for this week, they're facing all right-handed pitchers. They got 3 against Miami at home and 2 against the Cardinals, which I absolutely hate. Anybody going against the Cardinals right now. He's got 6 home games, but he's hit only 1 home run at home. So you'd think that being at home is a good thing, but for him, he's just not had great statistics at home. At home, he's got 1 home run, and on the road, he has 9. So, out of his 10 home runs this season, only 1 has been at home, and he's got all 6 games are at home this week.
Yeah, and that's a little bit worrisome in the power front for him, but he does hit for a pretty decent average so far. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm looking at his splits. He's not at home. He's not. So
he's okay at home. He hits .264, but his power is definitely sapped, dude, at home.
Well, it's funny because it's really not even his power is that bad. It's because you're looking 22 RBI to 30, so he's still driving in runs. It's just he can't hit it out of the park.
There's other shortstops that I could say, I mean, if that's the only shortstop you own, of course you're going to play him, but, the shortstop pool is so deep, and I think that there's a lot more other options that you could possibly stream for this week. If you do have options, I would try to leave Kevin Newman out of it. However, just like you said, he's still driving in runs. He's still a good hitter. I mean, he just bats .361 away and .264 at home. It's a big difference, but like you said, he does still driving runs. And stuff.
Well, and he's still stealing bases at home too. You're talking
Yes,
6 at home, 7 away. So it's not the worst thing in the world that you could deal with, but there's probably a better option out there for you. And isn't it sad how, 4 years ago, maybe even 5, shortstop was just a terrible spot to try to get through?
Oh, yes.
And now all of a sudden, I mean, there's more depth there than almost any other position.
It's unbelievable, the change in the depth, and it just has happened over the last couple seasons. Another middle infielder that you might want to consider benching is the Rockies. Now, the Rockies, last week they had 7 games at home. This week they play 6 games on the road, 3 at Dodgers and 3 at Padres. Now, 4 of those outings are against left-handed pitchers. I would say to sit Daniel Murphy, even though I understand why it could be difficult to sit Daniel Murphy. It's just that he's not that great against left-handed pitchers, and away from Colorado, he's going to just lose some of that allure.
Yeah, I think that we've seen the best of what we are going to see out of Daniel Murphy, so I really don't have an issue with him being sat. Most likely you'll be able to get somebody that's a middle infielder that you can fill in for him, even if because he's eligible for first base now this year as well, right?
I don't even know. I don't own Daniel Murphy at all.
Okay. I know that the Rockies, they had planned on using him at first base quite a bit this year, and I don't own him at all either. That's why I wasn't 100% on that, but I feel even
Maybe
if
he
he is
doesn't even
eligible.
play middle infield anymore. I don't even know. I just
No, I know
assumed.
he started. I want to say when I saw him on ESPN earlier this year, he was eligible for first and second, which did help the allure of him. But I agree with you. I think there's plenty of options out there that you'd be able to get, even if you're playing waiver wire guys.
He's not even a middle infielder, Andrea. He plays first base only. I mean, he has made
Oh, he
3.
lost second base. I thought he
He
did have it still.
Okay, maybe he does. Last year he played 71 times at second base, which gave him automatic eligibility at second base. So, no, he hasn't lost it. He's only played there 3 times this year, though, so he is about to lose it. If you're playing him right now, he does have middle infield eligibility at second base, but he hasn't played there at all this season, so like I said, he's about to lose that.
Well, it's hard
I,
for them to want to play him there because they have Garrett Hampson and who's the other second baseman they had?
dude.
I know they have somebody
Brian
else too, and
McMahon.
there
They
you
have
go.
Brian McMahon.
So I can completely understand it why they would have, signed him to play first base. I just don't really get why they really signed him.
I mean, he's only hitting 190 in the last 7 days, and they were all games at home. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be hitting in the last 7 days. He's actually been so crappy that I wouldn't even play him at home right now. So
Yeah,
bench him.
I mean, the only thing that I could see anything worth of him, and it's really hard to want to do that, would be like a daily play on DraftKings or something, just because nobody's going to own him, and you're hoping he goes off one day.
Yeah, totally. The Indians play 7 games this week. They're playing 4 at home against the White Sox, who we already know they dominate, and they're playing 3 at Minnesota. Okay, that's going to be an interesting little series. But Jason Kipnis was on my list as some guy that could be picked up this week. He's 6 of the 7 games are against right-handed pitchers, and he's got a .464 slugging percentage against righties. He's got 14 home runs against right-handed pitchers and only 2 against left-handed pitchers. His average isn't great over the last couple weeks, but he does bat 5th. And the problem with him, though, is that he's sitting out today, and he's definitely day-to-day right now. He's got a sore wrist, and again, he's sitting out today. So Jason Kipnis might not be what I expected him to be when I put him on the list.
Yeah, he's a real tough one to kind of judge. If it's a daily league, you kind of have to leave him on your bench if you have the option to going against Minnesota, because it's really tough to judge what you're going to get out of him. But against the White Sox, if you're in a daily moves league, you have to play him just because it's too nice of a matchup. I'm sorry, anybody that's going against the White Sox, unless pitchers are a little more understandable to hold back, but when it's a hitter going against the White Sox, unless Giolito is pitching, you have to play him.
Yeah, and Kipnis he's got 3 home runs in the past 7 days. Like I said, he bats 5th against righties. So watch him though, because he's hurt, and that took him off my radar to even pick up this week or to think about playing, because he is day to day with a sore wrist, and he's sitting out right now. The Padres, they play 6 games. 3 of them are at Arizona, and 3 are at home against Colorado Rockies. All of these are right-handed pitchers. Josh Naylor, I know that he's not like big time owned. He's probably only owned like less than 10% or 5%, but All 7 of his home runs this season are off right-handed pitchers. He bats second or fifth against righties, and he could be somebody that you would consider putting in your roster this week, especially in like 15-team leagues. 12-team leagues, it's a little more iffy, but Josh Naylor, all right-handed pitching this week.
Honestly, even in a 12-team league, I might still take a stab at him because he's got good matchups. Arizona doesn't have Greinke anymore, so the only one you're having to watch out for, and he's not going to see him since it's all righties, would be Robbie Ray.
Yeah.
So I think I would definitely take a stab at him even in a 12-team. It's when you go into 10 or less, I know there's better options out there than Naylor.
For sure. The Dodgers, they play 6 home games, and guess what? They're all against right-handed pitching, so Jock Peterson is a must-start this week. And, Jock Peterson was excellent to start the season. He gave you well more than you paid for him in any draft, or even if you picked him up off the waiver. Obviously, he's made his money back by far, but he did hit a slump over the last few months. He hasn't been hitting well at all. He's one of those players that you have to freaking babysit, too, so it's just a pain in the ass to put him in your roster. But since August 25th, it's 7 games. He's got 2 home runs, and he's batting .300, which is unheard of for him anyway. Anyway, he plays all 6 home games against right-handed pitching. He's a must-activate for this week.
I agree with you, and I'm still actually kind of disappointed in the Dodgers that they finally gave Bellinger the chance against lefties, and look at what he's doing with it. Why haven't they decided to do the same thing with Jock and let him just put him out there? Let's see what he can do. I'm so sick of this. Keep him in a platoon. He can't hit lefties. He can't hit lefties. You haven't even given him the chance to see if he can hit off of lefties yet.
He's only played in like 4 games the entire season when a left-handed pitcher is on the mound to start.
Yeah,
the game.
And it's really easy to say that he doesn't do well because how many of us can have good bad stretches in 4 games against lefties?
Yeah, they don't let him. They definitely don't give him any kind
They
of practice.
Keep protecting him. It's ridiculous. You're not going to learn it if you don't give him the game situation for it. And like I said, look at how well it worked out for Bellinger. Now, is he going to overnight turn into an MVP caliber player? Probably not, but he's good enough that he should be given the chance.
What about Tony Gonsolin? He's a starting pitcher in LA, the Dodgers. He's 28% owned. He threw 127 innings last season, and this year he's only at 69 innings, so he's definitely going to be used going forward. The Dodgers rotation, we talked about earlier, the fact that they're so far ahead in the National League West that they don't have to worry about not winning the division, really. Ryu needs rest, obviously, and this guy's got at least 5 innings in 3 of his last 4 starts with 2 runs or fewer given up in all 5 outings so far.
Hey, the Dodgers are one of those teams that if I owned a Dodger like a Kershaw or something, I'd be a little more worried. I would want their younger guys right now because I really feel they should be on a 6 or 7 man rotation with how deep they are for it. It's I just feel that you want to have a lot of your young guys going out there pitching to help those veteran arms get some rest going into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Gonsolin, he's had 5 starts. He's got a 2.89 ERA and a .96 WHIP. So he faces Samardzija on Friday, and obviously he's not a 2-star pitcher, but definitely somebody that's going to be used down the stretch for the Dodgers. And according to what he's done so far, you could pitch him.
Well, you already said it alone. He's going against the Giants. I feel I can pitch him right there.
Yeah, Samardzija and at home, so I don't know if that's better than pitching at San Francisco, but either way, the Giants aren't that great this time of season. The Reds, they're playing 7 games at home. Okay, that's probably good for their hitters, not so much for their pitchers, but all 7 games at home, and 4 of the games are against lefties. I'm sitting Freddie Galvis because he's batting .208 in the last 2 weeks anyways, and he's got a 33% strikeout rate in 16 games since he joined the Reds. He just has not been good since he became a Red. I'm definitely sitting him because there's other options out there in the middle, and I'm also sitting Tucker Barnhart. So there's other catchers that you can replace Tucker Barnhart with if you're with me on this Tucker Barnhart sitting idea.
I agree with you because a lot of times with catcher, they're so dime a dozen that you can find anyone out there. Galvis, he might be a little bit harder to replace, but I still feel it can be done. And he's pitched so badly or played so badly since he's gotten to Cincinnati that he's not really worth it. I don't even think that his fielding percentage has been as good since he's gotten there.
Yeah, he really took a nosedive, dude, since he became a Red. The
Yeah, I
replacements.
mean, he's known as a fielder, and he can't even do that right now.
Yeah, but he was great for fantasy owners this season. For most of the year, he was excellent until they just DFA'd him, and then he got picked up by the
Well,
Reds.
I can understand why Toronto had to move off of him. How are they going to start getting all these young guys playing time?
I agree. I totally agree with that, but it didn't fare well for Galvis. Um,
Yeah,
Replacements for catcher, though, you got Yadier Molina, who is owned 82% of the time. But just in case people gave up on Molina, or you're in a league where they don't have a bunch of injury spots that Molina could have been let go. In the last 2 weeks, he's got 11 RBIs and 10 runs, along with 4 home runs in 43 at bats. He is absolutely on fire. Yachty in a lineup that is also absolutely on fire, and Victor Caratini for the Cubbies. He's playing today. He plays catcher and first base, so that's the beauty of this guy. He's only 12% owned. In the last 2 weeks, he's got 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. He's playing every day. Right now, today he's playing first base, I think. So the good thing about Caratini is that he's 12% owned and definitely could be a good replacement for Tucker Barnhart this week and even moving forward because he plays other positions.
yes, and Caratini is actually somebody that is very favored by Madden because you look
Okay.
at it. Well, they made the move for what's his name, the catcher that they traded for, and then turned around and traded him like a week or two later. Oh God, I can't think of the name. But regardless of that, Caratini is the guy that they want to move forward with as their starter, not just for. And I'm not speaking really just for this season. They're talking future plans that they see him as their everyday guy. So you got to expect that you're going to see a lot more playing time out of him.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's definitely worth a pickup in every league. The Orioles, they have a doubleheader on Tuesday, so they have 7 games this week. They're going to face 4 lefties. Now, there's a couple great hitters, not great hitters, but great ads for this week based on the matchups. Renato Nunez is one of them. Third base and DH. He bats 4th in the lineup. Against lefties, he's got 12 home runs. He bats .272 against lefties. I definitely think he's one. I'm not really sure how much he's owned because he's obviously not on the most added list this week or the most dropped or the most traded. But I know that he's available in quite a few leagues. He's a little known, so if you're in any kind of mixed league, 12 or more managers, then I think that he's probably available in half of them.
Was this for Nunez?
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think he's owned more?
I Very possibly because I actually was able to sweep him up in my dynasty last season. Then I let him go, and I know he's already owned in that. So he's a tough one. But if he's out there, he's somebody you definitely need to add because him actually realistically lately he's the only bright spot in the Orioles lineup because
I don't
Mancini's
know.
been playing so bad.
Yeah, but they have Anthony Santander, who's been excellent, and he bats third. Okay, he's a rookie in 113 plate appearances against lefties. He's got 8 home runs, 17 runs, 23 RBIs. He's batting .292 against lefties, and that doesn't even count what he's done against righties because he also has 8 home runs against righties. He's been quietly doing damage over in Baltimore, and I definitely think he should be at the top of the pickup list tonight. Anthony Santander for Baltimore. He's having a great matchups this week, and in the second half, he's has 190 at bats in the second half of the season, 12 home runs, 23 runs, and 32 RBIs. He's batting .300 in 190 at bats.
Yeah, and those are definitely good stats, and that's probably why I've overlooked him so far. As he's not somebody that really pops into my mind as somebody for the Orioles, really.
Yeah, I know. The
When I
Orioles
think the Orioles, I'm just thinking Mancini and Nunez.
The Orioles, yeah, I know. They don't seem to have a lot of good batters, but right now they're actually beating teams, and they're youngsters. Well, Hanser Alberto is another one, okay? He plays second base and third base, and he usually bats leadoff against lefties. So the fact that they're facing a good chunk of lefties this coming week could be a good reason to put him in. His batting average on balls in play against lefties is .458, so expect him to fall off the cliff at any time against left-handed pitchers. But as of now, since August 17th, he's been hitting good. He's batting .340 since August 17th. That's pretty good. 10 RBIs, 10 runs.
Well, that's when he got called up, right?
Yeah. So he's batting .342 in the second half, and again, his batting average on balls in play against lefties is out of control, crazy. But if you just look at the stats on the surface, you would say he's got good stats against lefties, and he does. But who knows how long that will last. I would say out of the three that I mentioned, he would be the third one. But Santander and Nunez need to be in your active lineup this week.
Yeah, and if they're not owned, they're definitely guys to be trying to pick up.
Here's some other players that we could consider off teams that the teams that I just listed and went through. They're teams that I thought that would affect certain batters on that team. Their schedule coming up. But other teams that I didn't mention, such as Tampa Bay, they have Nate Lowe. Okay, he's back up, and he can run. He can hit for power. But the big problem with him is the fact that they got Jesus Aguilar, which left zero room in Tampa for Lowe. He's also a left-handed first baseman, which they already have in Ji-Man Choi. And then, of course, Aguilar, too, is platooning with him at first base. So where are they going to put him? Avisel Garcia, he is usually hitting in the DH spot. And Kevin Kiermaier is also back. So the Nate Lowe experience, or experiment, if you want to call it that, I think is mostly, you can't really rely on him to get the at-bats that you would expect if you're planning on using him for fantasy going forward.
Well, you also have to think with Brendan McKay coming back up, he's a dual player. He pitches and he plays first base. So, granted, I really feel they need to take away that hitting ability from him because he's not that good of a hitter.
Yeah.
He is 1,000 times better of a pitcher than he is a hitter. So, I would say as far as that, I would let him finish the year out as that and tell him from now on you're just a pitcher. And then they still have to figure out this first base issue where I think Aguilar, they just have him the rest of the season, so they're probably going to just let him go. And you might actually see Lowe take away some starts from him because of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I don't pick up Lowe tonight because unless I'm in a keeper league of some sort, and there's a one slight little sliver of a chance that he's available, which I doubt.
Well, and I agree with you in that because you figure he's only going to get maybe 1 to 2 starts the rest of the season per week.
Yeah, he's just not going to get enough playing time to matter in fantasy. Of course, next year is a different story, so we'll see then. But for now, I'm just not going to bother with Nate Lowe. Even the reason that I bring him up is because he's really high on everybody's radar right now, and everybody wants him to get playing time because he does hit for power and he can steal bases. But unfortunately, you can't always get what you want, right, that guy?
Exactly. He's not somebody I can really rely on to want to go ahead and take in fab. I would let everyone else spend their budget on him and the remaining that I have to use on other players.
Totally. Victor Reyes, Detroit outfielder. He's 3% owned. Yesterday he went 3 for 5 with 2 runs, an RBI, and a stolen base. And he's got 3 multi-hit games in his last 4 starts, and he has a .290 average in 43 games since he joined Detroit, since he was called up, and he bats leadoff. So Victor Reyes, 3% owned. What are you waiting for?
I don't know what anybody is waiting for with him. I've already tried to take stabs at him in some of my leagues, and I got outbid on him. Uh-huh. So that should tell you the reasoning of it, that I don't own him. But, the only thing... Actually, with Detroit, there's nothing that blocks him. For some reason, I was thinking Cleveland. But there's nothing that's going to block him from getting playing time. He's definitely hitting very well. He's somebody that you need to own and get out there.
Totally. Colton Wong, back in the news. This guy, Colton Wong, crazy, okay? He went 3 for 6 with a double, a triple, 2 RBIs, and a stolen base last night. He's got a 5-game hit streak, which isn't that crazy, but he's hitting .600 over the last 5 games with 5 extra base hits and 5 RBIs. He should definitely be owned, especially since the St. Louis Cardinals lineup is on fire, just like he is. He's owned. He's 46% owned. But still, I felt like there's a good reason to bring him up because when you're less than half owned and you're hitting this good, he's just going through another phase, an up phase, like he did at the beginning of the season where he was absolutely needed to be owned. So with Colton Wong, from here on out, if I have a chance to put him in, I'm doing it.
Yeah, because like you just said, that whole team is hitting so well. Even if he's not going to get you hits, he's somebody that's going to be able to get you runs just for the fact that if he takes a few walks, he's going to be on base and people are going to be able to drive him in.
Totally. I like Colton Wong for sure. Moving on here. Why isn't Dexter Fowler owned? 18% owned. You've got to be kidding me with Dexter Fowler leading off for the Cardinals. Just crazy good. He's got 2 home runs and 14 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. Okay? 14 ribbies in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's somebody that I'm with you. I don't understand how he can't be owned. He's going to be high on my list for Fab this week just because I don't understand how I've even overlooked him. But he's somebody that, like we've said, you have so many outfield spots. There's no way you don't have a hole in your outfield that you shouldn't be trying to go after somebody like this that can really help fill up those spots and help you be able to get a win.
Dude, I mean, I have so many holes in my outfield, and I know that Dexter Fowler is available in Tout Wars, which it just makes me like, what the hell is going on? I mean, look, he's a veteran and he's been around for a long time, and he's been consistent that entire time, even when he's playing. Like the last couple years, I could see why he's not as targeted because he's not had as many at-bats over the last couple of seasons and people just forget about him. But when you're batting leadoff for a team that's winning all kinds of games, 8 out of their last 10, you just say to yourself, like, the opportunity for points and leagues and runs and RBIs, it's all there with him. So whether or not you like, I don't care if he's old. That's what I'm saying. He's a veteran and he's absolutely worth relying on at this point in the season. He bats leadoff, which I cannot stress enough for this. But Tommy Edman, who I thought he's another St. Louis Cardinal. I thought he was going to lose playing time to Tyler O'Neill, but I have to say Tyler O'Neill's been healthy and he hasn't had any opportunity. He hasn't taken one plate appearance away from this guy Edman, who also plays second, third, and outfield. He's 20% owned, and if you're looking for runs or stolen bases, he has 12 in the last 2 weeks. 12.
Well, let's be honest. Even if O'Neill gets out there, what's to stop them from starting Edman over at third base over Carpenter? I mean, Carpenter doesn't have good of a glove, so you might as well give him a chance at it.
Last night, he had his third 3-hit game in the last 6 games, and he finished August with a .308 batting average. On the season, he's batting .283. So, like I said, he plays second, third, and outfield and should qualify at all 3 of those positions in fantasy. I don't know why he's only 20% owned. I expect him to be at the top of the most added list this week, probably. But
I would definitely see that. Just off position eligibility and the way he hits, he needs to be one of the top guys going out there.
Yeah, especially for runs. I mean, this guy is a godsend for runs if you need to catch up in runs. And Mark Canha, who's 57% owned, although I still need to bring him up because he's the most added this week. This guy's been on fire. I doubt he's available in anybody's league, but he could be. He's hit in 14 of his last 15 games, including 8 of those being multiple hit games. He bats right in the middle of the lineup, dude, in Oakland. And what are you going to say? From August 14th to August 31st, 15 games, he's got 6 home runs. Okay? 6.
Which, that's insane. I mean, you're talking about a godsend for Oakland who... that's the only reason why they have any business of saying that they're in a wild card race is because of Canha, because Chris Davis has done nothing for them, and he's basically single-handedly replaced that.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Chris Davis is coming back. He's reinstated from paternity leave. Maybe that was his problem. When I saw that he was out for paternity leave, I was like, okay, because I'm always just looking for some reason why he's been this shitty.
And possibly he had that thought on his mind. But you know what? As a professional player, you need to understand how to put some things in the back of your mind and worry about it when you're off the field.
Yeah, so even if it was that, it's not a good excuse, right? I mean, what if his kid, maybe his wife had pregnancy issues, maybe she had, medical problems or something, that could be something worth looking at, because nobody's talking about the fact that he sucks so bad. And yes, I know he's battled injury, but why don't they just put him on the DL then? We have talked about this a couple times so far, and I just don't get it. Like, if they thought he was injured, then why the hell is he not getting better?
I agree with you on that. It's something I just don't understand what's been going on with him. This guy has been one of the best hitters in the AL the last couple of seasons that you've been able to get as a steal because of his batting average, and this year he's offered really nothing.
He's been horrible. I have one more player on here, but I'm really not going to be going for this guy. He's another Oakland Athletic player. Sheldon Noose plays third base and second base. He's batting 8th today. He also plays shortstop, but he's appeared 9 times in the minor leagues at shortstop. That's not enough to be qualified at shortstop in the majors. He does qualify at second and third. In the majors, he's only played second, so that's where we can imagine him going. He's batting 8th today, and he could be used every day, either at second base or DH. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, these are 2 spots that Oakland struggled with. Of course, with Chris Davis having his issues. I'm not going to say injury issues, but issues, whatever the hell they may be. And DH spot, obviously that's where Chris Davis plays. But second base, who's their second baseman?
Semien plays third, or short, so I'm not sure on who's playing second for them.
Well, this guy Sheldon Noose, he batted .317 with 27 homers and 31 doubles and 560 plate appearances at AAA Vegas. So, yes, it's in the Pacific Coast League, and yes, his home runs are probably a bit exaggerated. However, it's still good production at the minor league level, and I thought it was worth a mention because he is batting 8th today for Oakland.
Yep. Well, I'm trying to actually pull them up right now and see who they have for second. Barreto and Profar.
Franklin Barreto. He was called up. He was added to the roster too today, which I didn't bring him up because I just don't see him getting enough at bats to matter in fantasy. But he did get added to the major league roster today with the expansion going on.
Yeah, which, I can see him taking away starts from Profar just because Profar isn't having as good of a year as what he did last season. So I could see that just because of the fact that they see him as a part of their future. But you figure he's going to get, 3 starts a week. So in a weekly league, he's not really worth trying to roll out there.
So the Phillies reinstated Jay Bruce. I'm reading over the latest news now. And the Phillies, Jay Bruce, coming back from 10-day injured list. So he actually appeared in his last game on August 8th. And he did have the strong side of a platoon at first base going into his injury. But I don't know if he's going to get as many at-bats because Corey Dickerson is absolutely excellent in left field, and I don't know who's going to play first base.
Although, you know what? One other thing for you. I'm not trying to cut you off on that.
No.
Carrasco came back today.
Yes. But he was he was activated from the injury list, but he's not going to
well, no, hold on, because I just pulled it up. He was warming up in the 7th inning.
So he's going to be in the bullpen.
Oh, he did? No, he did pitch today.
Great.
19 pitches in the bottom of the 7th.
And how did he do?
I'm not seeing his stat line, but the Indians got destroyed 8-2, so.
Well, whatever. The fact that he's back is excellent. I wouldn't pick him up in fantasy because I don't think he's going to get a lot of opportunity to get, well, maybe, but you can't.
He'll probably be able to get you some holds, and that's about it. So I don't really know how much I would trust it. Let's see.
But on the other hand of that, dude, if you look at it from a different perspective and you think of using Carrasco at any time when they need to pull out one of their youngsters like Plutko or even Shane Bieber at this point in the season, like these guys, maybe he comes in and he's able to get the win because you only have to throw at one pitch to be able to qualify for the win if you're not the starting pitcher. So let's say he comes in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, he pitches 2 innings. He's going to be, I would assume that he's going to be good. He's an excellent pitcher. So you could possibly steal a few wins off of this guy. And honestly, at this point in the season, I just would never recommend chasing wins to begin with. But I don't think it's a good idea ever. But with a guy like Carrasco, who could be relied upon in very high leverage situations, he stands a chance of getting more wins than your normal everyday relief pitcher.
Yes, well, and his stat line today wasn't the best. 2 hits and 1 earned and across 1 inning with no strikeouts. But the thing I love about this is the fact that when he came out, they're in Tampa, and the Tampa went nuts of him coming out. Yes, and
what do you mean they went nuts?
Cheering, screaming, not like booing him.
Really?
Yes.
I don't remember him pitching for Tampa.
No, he never did. But it's just the fact of how good that looks just for the fans. So here, I can read the first paragraph of this.
Wait till he gets to Cleveland, and the fans there are so good of fans. Dude.
Oh, yeah. But here you go. The buzz began on Sunday long before the loudspeakers at Tropicana Field announced that Carlos Carrasco was up and warming in the 7th inning. It grew steadily during the 7th inning stretch and erupted in standing ovation from the crowd and chants of "cookie, cookie" as the right-hander jogged in from the bullpen.
Oh,
that's a very good look just for baseball in general. The fact that, granted, Tampa, it's usually a very empty stadium, but that's a really good look for them to have just to cheer on that guy, because we all know how much he had to do just to be able to get back.
Oh, are you kidding me? He dealt with chronic myeloid leukemia, which is blood cancer, and the fact that he's even coming back, it makes me cry. I'm serious. I think that Tampa Bay is showing such class by giving him that type of reception, and it's great for baseball. It's really great.
Gavin Lux is going to get the call-up.
Fine.
It hasn't been confirmed yet, but he is going to be getting the call-up is what it looks like.
Now, let's just re-talk about Gavin Lux for a minute before all you people get all crazy on Gavin Lux. At least when we started this show, it was not known whether he would get called up or not. And I have to say, with a huge red flag going on, that Gavin Lux is not only, does he have absolutely questionable playing time, but we have no idea how he's going to hit. We have no idea. And back to the playing time thing, that's the big deal. We don't know where he's going to play or when he's going to play. Okay, maybe the fact that they're calling him up because the minor league season is over. So I'm not going to say that just because they called him up that they're going to use him every day or even close to that.
No, the only option that they really have is honestly to play him at second, because they're filled everywhere else in the outfield. And second, they basically platoon it between Chris Taylor and Enrique Hernandez. So,
which they're playing all righties this week. So Kiki Hernandez is probably shit out of luck.
Yeah, and it's something that, as one of the guys in the Dodgers front office, I definitely want to see what he's going to be able to do, and I need to see him play at a major league level. Oh, and actually, Muncy is out for 2 weeks, so that really does give him a chance.
Max Muncy, that play that he made the other day was just, did you see defensively? He's very good.
Oh, yeah, he's been playing really good when they moved him over to second, even when he's playing at third. So that's what I can understand making it tough, but I'm seeing it right now. He's got a right wrist fracture, so he's probably done for the season.
Speaking of Max Muncy, last year I was all in on him going into the playoffs. I was all in on him. We actually did a draft. We did a league, just a playoff league, which I think we might consider doing that again this year. It was a lot of fun. So Max Muncy, the year before, it was like he just crushed the playoffs so bad. It was like no chance, and he wasn't having that great of a season last year. So I was able to get him in that playoff draft relatively easy. But he did jack shit for me in the playoffs. So this is not a case where he's good in the playoffs or not good. I don't know what he's going to do in the playoffs. He might not even play anymore, according to the injury that you just said he had. But the point is, what I thought was going to be a superstar in the playoffs turned out to be a dud in the playoffs.
It's definitely something that was tough to, deal with it, because you expect something really good out of the guy, and then he just does nothing.
But if he's hurt, I'd rather him be on the bench, and that way I know about it right off the bat.
That's true.
So Gavin Luck's up, Max Muncy out. Does it give him more chance to play? We don't know. But on that note of this beautiful Carrasco outing, just the fact that he went out.
Yeah, I love that. But I did just see something really interesting for Verlander's no-hitter.
Tell me.
He walked the first batter and then retired the 26 straight.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's... No, they just had that show on the bottom line there. So, retired final 26 batters after one out walk in the first.
Oh my gosh.
That's insane.
If there's anybody to be jealous of in life, dude, it's got to be Justin Verlander. Is there anybody that you could be more jealous of as a dude than Justin Verlander? I mean, he's the best. You could be arguing that he's the best pitcher in baseball, and if he's not, then he's been the most consistent best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, and then he's married to a movie star on top of it, so.
A model. Get it right.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, whatever.
A beautiful model with great personality, down to earth, haughty, big boobs, everything.
He's got everything going for him, where the rest of us normos have nothing.
Dude. Okay. Verlander wins. He's 17-5. Literally, is it a no-hitter or is it just a complete game shutout? What is this?
No-hitter.
Oh my goodness. 26 batters straight. So he walked one and then he retired 26. So hats off to Justin Verlander. I guess we can end on that wonderful note.
Yep. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Enjoy your week.